do it. We're now recording. We're now live.
Live?
Well, I mean, we're not live. We're
like Memorex. Like,
no.
Can I sit back and like?
Just
do I need a scarf?
You should have us get blown back. Get blown back in your very sunk down chair.
Is it live? Is it Memorex?
It's neither of those things. It's pre-recorded. But we are now back with more fighting fantasy. In fact, we've come so far. One would say that we might be
advanced.
We've been advanced. You guys really enjoyed this, and I'm really happy you did. This feels like the kind of content I want to make in the future, and I had a ton of fun making it. This is the most fun I think you and I've had making something.
Yeah, I definitely super enjoyed
in a minute
last time.
Yeah, because it's not that there isn't any lifting. Like, we do a bunch of research, we make a bunch of notes. Obviously, and the editing's pretty long for these videos too. But like,
that feels like no work to me at all.
It wasn't. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't. Well, but it also wasn't the work that we're always doing, which is usually like painting toy soldiers, putting stuff together. Like, it was a big change, which I think was really cool.
Yeah.
And so when we finished the last one, we talked about how we should just move on to the next level, which was Advanced Fighting Fantasy. And we did a little overview of these in the previous video. If you want to watch it, it's up here in the cards. Talking about the Fighting Fantasy series. And you can go back to that one to hear the history of everything and stuff like that too. But we wanted to move on to kind of, I guess, the inheritors of this brand, which starts with Marcus Goyne, who was their editor for years and years. Yep. And he was the guy who, anytime the book says presents, right, he was editing someone else's book.
You got it.
And then he brought about this, which is Dungeoneer. So it basically takes the Fighting Fantasy framework, which is rules light, and expands it to be a little more dense, but still follows that same easy to kind of digest format of this scene-driven RPG. Like, I feel like the biggest weight taken off by these books, just to give like an overview, is actually on the Dungeon Master.
I think the big change to me from a character creation point of view, because I think that's the biggest change in sort of how the characters interact with the world. I think the biggest change is that if you were to take just the original Fighting Fantasy and break down what people people who played other role-playing games, what their complaints about it would likely be,
right?
The sameness of it, the lack of variation and options, that's kind of what Advanced Fighting Fantasy builds back in without making the game itself really significantly more complicated at all.
Yeah. And it adds to like your sort of like spread of what makes you feel like you're a character. So instead of being just an adventurer, like we talked about that in the first episode, like you feel like your class is adventurer, and you kind of can like tailor that maybe on the fly to the adventure. In this one, you have an adventurer, but that adventurer then drills down into additional skills that makes you feel like you have a class.
Fighter, or you can be a spellcaster. There's even different types of spellcasters, or you can be a sneaky character. Yeah, like it goes into more kind of classic fantasy tropes.
So the first edition of this book is in 89. First published in 89. My copy is from 89, ironically, which I think is really interesting. And this is I think a really interesting like take on not just the advancing of like their rule set, but also it has another stab at explaining what role-playing games are to the layman. And I think it kind of combines that introductory to role-playing games sort of like feeling of this one with, well, now you're capable of a bit more. Maybe you grew up with fighting fantasy novels and you now can absorb a bit extra, and this is now for you like in your teenage years or like your early 20s.
I think it's also it's an interesting insight into how different the landscape was in the early to mid 80s versus now, because we talk a lot in other products, right, about how a brand name becomes synonymous with the product, right? And like, no one buys facial tissue. Everyone buys Kleenex. Whether they buy Kleenex or
everyone
not.
cleans windows with Windex. They don't use blue window cleaner.
And if you were to explain to a friend or a coworker who's not into role-playing games what a role-playing game is, you'd be like, well, there's role-playing games. And they'd be like, what? They give you the confused look, and you say, it's Dungeons & Dragons. Because that's the brand that's synonymous with it.
Right.
And you go back to the time this was being published, there was no brand synonymous with it. Like, it was still new enough that if you said Dungeons and Dragons to a significant portion of the population, they'd still give you a blank-eyed stare.
Yeah, and the people that did instantly recognize it was from whatever its media portrayal was, or maybe like the
Satanic Panic.
The Satanic Panic kind of side of it. Yeah, not that that's right or wrong, but that is sort of like how it went.
That was its mass media exposure.
Yeah, that was its mass media exposure. So if like your grandma knew what it was, then that's going to be the thing that she knows it for. This book's interesting because it does still follow kind of that fighting fantasy format. It has incredible art, but it adds in something that the fighting fantasy book didn't have, apart from like that top-down overview, which is scene maps. So you get the detail now of like what's in the room, what does the room look like, a lot more director notes that make it a bit easier on the, and they call them directors still, which I think is interesting. They call them dungeon masters, legally distinct terminologies for setting the scene. But it makes it very easy for you to just pick these up and play. Right?
Well, even like when you flip over to the back cover of that, doesn't it refer to it not as an adventure, but as a film? Doesn't it actually refer
direct your own fighting fantasy films?
Yeah.
Now you and your friends can create your own fighting fantasy movies. Imagine that you are the director and your friends are the cast of heroes. Will you send them battling the evil wizard or recover the dragon's hoard? The choice is yours, and Dungeoneer makes the exciting world of fantasy role-playing accessible in a thoroughly user-friendly manner. Like that is, you're right, it's on the outside that's their goal, is to make it digestible. There's 6 pre-generated heroes at the back as well, who have incredible names and backstories, like Aspen Darkfire, who is an elf adventurer, 25 years old, which seems really young for an elf.
Learn a lesson from this, RPG producers. You don't need some weird name with apostrophes like you can just be Aspen Darkfire.
Just be Aspen Darkfire. Just be Aspen Darkfire. My favorite is they all have quotes of like things they would say. Like, I say chaps, outnumbered again. Hey, jolly good show is one of the things that Aspen Darkfire apparently always says. You would have thought that the old wizard could have managed to hire some orcs that didn't have bad breath for a change, or I wouldn't do that if I were you. She has a real what's her name from Lost. Oh shoot. She's a real the Wasp kind of like
Evangeline Lilly's
Evangeline Lilly. Yeah, she's got a real Evangeline Lilly sort of like look and like quotation in here as well. Then there's Jarek Stormguard, human mercenary. His quotes are let's go, and then come on orc, make my day.
I wonder which character I would have played if,
Now, my favorite is the wizard who looks like a member of the Young Ones.
Oh my God.
He's the last one. His name's Baroness Wrangler.
Hurry up with your haircut. Your mom needs that bowl for the salad.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And his quotes, he's just like, he's the most enthusiastic member of the whole group. Great, let's go. I wonder what's behind this door. I wonder how you summon one of those. Like, he's extremely excited to tell you about what's going on.
Audience insertion character.
Yeah, audience insertion character. So they really did try and make it as if this was your first experience with role playing, and obviously that was the goal with fighting fantasy, but they really did try and make it so that you could pick this up and have everything you needed to go. You didn't have to make notes to the Dungeon Master. You could just try it out with a few friends sitting around a table and be playing like right away. And then there was 2 more of these. There was Black Sand, which is set in the City of Thieves, Port Black Sand, which gives you more adventures. This one's written by Marcus Gwynn and Pete Tamlin. And really outlines the City of Thieves in like a very cool way. Like you get every street has a name, every street a neighborhood has like a layout. You get a background for the whole thing, and it's effectively it's like the first of the like here's a place setting book. Yeah, exactly. And then the third one is Alancia, and Alancia is like, now go make your own adventures in this part of the world that we're then going to explain, like the major cities and like their protagonists and stuff. So it's almost like the focus dials out as the 3 books go on. And this is the first edition of the game. And I can't remember, I don't have Alancia because as I said earlier, it was destroyed. I don't remember when exactly they were done with writing these first 3, but this one's published in 90, so just a year later. So it's probably 91 or 92 Alancia gets published. And that's the only 3 of these books they do. And then so now this is where I hand it over to you because this is my experience with these, and of course they paired with Out of the Pit and Titan to give you like the full like sort of like world building stuff if you want to make your own adventures. So now you come in with Advanced Fighting Fantasy 2nd edition, and this was your like pick for like a totally underrated RPG.
100%. So for me, there was a gap. Like I loved all the Fighting Fantasy books when they first came out. I read all of them. And then I got out of them for whatever reason when Dungeoneer and all that stuff rolled out. Always stayed interested, like even when I was way too old to be reading fighting fantasy books. Still reading.
Are you way too?
Clearly not.
Are you
Clearly
ever
not.
way too
My
old?
wife and I had this conversation about something else the other night. It's like, am I too old for this? And I'm like, No, I've gone all the way around the circle. I'm old enough that I don't care anymore.
That's exactly it. Yeah,
So-
that's right. In society might say yes, but I say I don't care. I'm a right in the wall.
In my house, I do whatever the hell
That's
I want.
exactly it. Yeah, there are no rules. I'm unsupervised at all times.
So a few years ago, new company, actually there was a gap in between. There was a company, I forget who they were now, who actually published, under license, published a bunch of the original Fighting Fantasy books for 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Here's a piece of lost knowledge I
should
didn't
have brought
realize.
those in. Those are also on drive-thru, so you can look
Okay.
that up, but
Sweet.
I can't remember the name of the company.
Well, I'm sure I can find pictures of them, and I'll put them up as we have been doing.
And then a few years ago, a company called Arian Games did a Kickstarter to do a 2nd edition of Advanced Fighting Fantasy.
I want to say it's pronounced Orion.
Is it? I would say that's an O first, isn't it?
A-R...
A-R?
A-R-I-O-N, Orion?
Yeah,
Orion?
maybe.
I'm going to say Ryan.
Is this going to be the next 20 minutes of what we're doing?
Yeah, I just want to. I just don't want to keep saying Aryan over and over again.
Fair enough.
I think it's
Did you just get demonetized?
I might have. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Orion. I'm just very uncomfortable with your pronunciation of this game company's name.
Well, I'm going to get hooked on phonics before we do another thing.
Orion Games.
There we go. So we'll go with that. So they did a Kickstarter for a 2nd edition of Advanced Fighting Fantasy, which, to the best of my knowledge, is super close to that Dungeoneer edition. It's definitely fleshed out even more. So again, same concept where you've got your basic Fighting Fantasy rules. You've got a lot of variation in terms of skills, and then the big add-on for me for this versus the original Fighting Fantasy as a group game is the magic system.
Right.
So you have a magic system.
Stat. You have a magic stat in this one.
You have a magic stat, and you have spell points as well. So
it was in a so the spell points and magic stat in this one are like part of your skill tree that you would build into if you wanted to. They're just a core stat in Advanced Fighting Fantasy. That's the first thing I noticed. The second thing I noticed is the skill buy is different. It's a pure buy system in the 2nd edition versus being a dice roll and then a buy system.
And the reason for that, I believe, is almost entirely driven by the way magic's been included. Because if you don't have any magical ability, you're going to be statistically as good as you were in the first Fighting Fantasy. If you want to be a wizard of any reasonable level of ability, you will be absolute crap at just about everything else. Which, again, to go back to role-playing games of the day, that's pretty much how it was. If you were a wizard, you were there to cast spells and not get stabbed.
You weren't at work. You weren't at work in the fields. You were reading books, and so you didn't have a lot of survival skills.
Don't make me push you down in the sand, Poindexter. So what I love about the 2nd edition of Advanced Fighting Fantasy, other than the fact that I just love the system, I think it's super cool, is one, it's widely accessible. Like you can get pretty much everything they've published on drive-thru. So you can get it instantly as a download. You can get it as, I think, almost all of the books, if not all of the books, let's say all of the books, are available as print on demand. They've expanded, like in addition to republishing a bunch of the original material. So we've got the new version of Black Sand.
Yeah, there it is. So it's and I looked inside. The art is basically the same too. Yeah. Graham Botley's Black Sand.
So new versions of that. A published adventure for Warlock of Firetop Mountain, for Citadel of Chaos, and for the first sorcery book, Crown of Kings, I think is.
And it seems like they're doing them in order from what you're telling me too, because they're doing like 1, 2.
There's pretty substantial gaps.
Force of Doom is 3.
Yeah, but Citadel of Chaos came out, I think, last year, and Warlock of Firetop Mountain came out, 6 years ago.
This feels like a passion project. Exactly. Someone's doing this in their spare time.
I don't think anybody's getting rich off this.
Orion Games is probably somebody's like, I love this. I have the license to do it. I'm writing these to get it right.
But in addition to that, there's a ton of other new content, including a lot of very short adventures.
Cool.
So the first time you and I played,
that's right.
Yeah, that was like a 6-page adventure. So again, lots of stuff to support what Fighting Fantasy fans like, but also a ton of new content that still has that feel to it, which is great.
The two things I think I like the most, having gone through them digitally, because as soon as we finished recording the last one of these, I went and ordered the big hardcover from Orion Games and was like, I just want to have this now. Like, I feel like this should be part of my collection. And the hardcover that you get from the website has Out of the Pit and Titan included in it. So in a way, I'm reclaiming my copy of Titan, which I'm happy about. I'm still trying to find a copy of Titan in Alancia, just putting it out there, guys. guys, if you got extras, this is what we do. This is how the great book symmetry perpetuates itself. Someone let me know. And the goal is that I'll then have that like cool physical copy I can pour through. But going through the digital ones, because you get a digital download as well when you buy the physical one, I noticed that I had all the original art. Right. So it's not the like new, basically this person who's making these like isn't having to labor without the sort of style of the originals. And I think that's really important.
They know why you love it.
Yeah, I got it.
That's to me, that's at the core of it. They know why you love it and they're trying to be as true to that as possible.
And that feels great. That makes me really happy, especially if it's like a passion project for somebody, if they also get like what made this sort of important to them and what gave them that sort of like feeling, then I think it shows in the product when you actually play through it.
And as a huge fan of the advanced fighting fantasy stuff, the current stuff, I will say, if you're at all curious, having listened to any of this, there's a free quick start available to download, which actually has the adventure that we'll be playing later today.
That's amazing. I'm excited. So that the one thing I will say is the thing I noticed isn't as in this book, and it isn't as in the advanced fighting fantasy stuff either, is the miniatures part. They don't talk about miniatures as much anymore.
No.
Funny how they don't talk about miniatures as much. Well,
you know what is actually really funny about it? If you go to their website, the largest single section on their website is paper miniatures.
Paper miniatures. Yeah. Wow.
So like 3D standees and stuff. Yeah. So you can get physical representations of everything.
Yeah.
But that's not referenced in there.
But it's not referenced in there anymore. Yeah, they don't talk about miniatures as much. It's just funny how it became less important over time for the authors, I guess. But that being said, I did paint some miniatures, and we're gonna make my character now too. So I got two characters because one of the other things I think we forgot to mention this you can add is you get a like racial sort of like bonus for being an elf or a dwarf.
Yeah.
And there's two in the book that I found, which was elf and dwarf. I don't know if they ever added any more in the expansions.
There's a player option book, but I don't actually have that, so I'm not sure if there's other playable races in there or not.
They go full Tolkien, basically.
Yeah.
They assume you want to play as an elf, a dwarf, or a human. And it's very mild what the bonuses are. Yeah. I think it's like elves are luckier, humans are get an additional point or dwarves get an additional point in stamina, I think, automatically. Humans get an additional point in one of the skills.
They love without limits.
Yeah, they love without limits, right? Yeah. And elves are luckier for whatever reason. But that's I think that's a good dovetail. We can get into character creation.
Yeah, for sure.
So my name is going to be Carlisle, the cartographer, because I have this amazing miniature, like who looks like a first level adventurer who is drawing a map, and I will overlay it. This is from the last Reaper Bones Kickstarter. These are I have had more fun painting the followers miniatures from the Reaper Kickstarters than I have painting almost anything else.
So if I can skip ahead,
they're like sidekicks.
So if I can skip ahead a little bit, so I know you're digging these figures from the Bones Kickstarters.
Yep.
The thing I have dug out and started painting my way through with the intention of using them maybe 2 or 3 sessions from now.
Amazing.
Is all of the little Bones scenic pieces.
Yes.
Like all the
so
altars,
cool.
and pillars, and
yeah.
There might be a lot of that.
I'm super pumped.
Too much of that.
I'm
in the very near
pumped.
future.
I'm super pumped. I'm super pumped.
There might be more furniture in our dungeon than I have in my house next time we play.
That's fantastic. I think what I like about them is they feel like low-level adventures. They feel like they are. Oh, geez, Siri just went off for some reason. I don't know why. They feel like they are like just starting out and having an adventure, and they also have like sensible crap on them. They have like backpacks, and they have like rope.
I wish so many more miniature companies, like this is always the struggle for me when I'm doing role-playing games. Like I wish so many more miniature companies would have like backpacks, ropes, pouches, like all that stuff. The number, if you ever look at the back of any of the fantasy figs I used in any of our fantasy skirmish games, the number of them that have backpacks from Napoleonic soldiers, because they're the only things I have a million extra backpacks for. It's like,
well, that's the thing, is like adventurers shouldn't look like they're about to go to the ball. They should look like they're going adventuring, which means basically you're camping. You know what I mean? Like you should look like you're going camping in like the Dark Ages, whatever that looks like.
Do you have food? Where is it? I don't see it on that figure.
Yeah. And I actually happen to know what that looks like because Chase and my other friend Christian Cameron, who's an author, he does like guided medieval tours of Algonquin in like full medieval kit. So they camp like medieval style. It's incredible. It's so like what that takes to do.
Oh yeah,
is incredible. Those people are physically fit by the time they get back because they're carrying like cauldrons and stuff.
Hey, I brought my propane. No, you didn't.
No, you
did not bring your propane stove.
See, you want to eat? We're gonna go fishing. You want to cook some dinner? We're gonna cut down some wood. It's a lot. So I was excited to paint this up, and his ancestry, I guess, is I'm gonna say he's from Salmonis, which is like the capital city.
Yeah,
and he's here to cartographize all of the lands. So he's gonna make maps. He's like Buster. He majored in cartography. He's gonna lose a hand. And then this is maybe the most British thing I've ever seen on a character sheet. So the next thing I have to fill in is what's my social class? That's so British.
Your cloth is poor.
My cloth is poor. All right. Poor of cloth. Is that a rule? But do I smell of horse?
I'm just going to discriminate against you sporadically throughout the game.
Okay, fair enough. I'm male, and my age, I'm going to say, is not... What's half my current age? Let's say 22.
Is this like where you do the math on that? What's the youngest you're allowed to date?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Half my age plus 7.
Plus
Wait,
7?
what is this number? Where did I end up?
This is uncomfortable. All right, so now the interesting thing is you don't roll dice to make your stats anymore. You do a point-by system, and you start with 4 level of skill.
4 skill.
Yep.
8 stamina.
8 stamina.
8 luck.
8 luck, okay.
And 0 magic.
All right, so I have 8 points to spend. I can put up to a maximum of 3 into any one skill. And for every point I put into stamina, I actually gain 2 stamina points.
Correct, and you can put up to 4 in stamina.
So
right. Skill and luck are 3 each.
Mm-hmm.
Stamina is 4 and 2 points of stamina per point.
Right.
And then magic, you add 1 point at a time up to 7 points.
All right.
So that's why, like I said, if you're going to be a spellcaster, don't be a spellcaster.
Don't be a spellcaster, yeah.
But if you were going to be a spellcaster, you're basically looking at having stats that will be pretty close to 4 skill, 8 stamina, and 8 luck.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to not be a spellcaster. My magic is the magic of map making. I'm literate. The magic of literacy, which was a medieval. Basically, I could be burned at the stake for this.
I was gonna say my magic is science. What's that, English?
That's right. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to add 3 points to skill. Just max it out to be skill 7.
Yep.
I'm going to put 2 points into luck so that I can be 8. I think luck. No, I started.
No,
8.
you started 8.
So I go to 10. So I go to 10. And that leaves me with a grand total of 3, which would put 6 into stamina, which puts me at 14 stamina. And then my magic will be 0 because I have a dark and iron-laden soul, and that makes my magic point 0 as well.
Actually, sorry, we got the racial bonuses wrong at the start.
Sorry.
So elf is +1 magic.
Oh, that's right.
Human is +1 luck.
So I'll go to luck 11. So I'm going to max out my luck that way. All right, so I can't take a punch. I'm slightly weedy from all my literacy training with pens and quills and stuff, but I'm fairly skilled and I'm quite lucky. And then I have talents, which I get to pick next.
Yeah, so you have skill areas in which you are specialized.
All right.
So we'll do that. So there are 5 main areas: combat, movement, stealth, magical, and knowledge.
Okay.
The first 3 add to a hero's skill for that specific test. Magical special skills add to the hero's magic, and knowledge add to either skill or magic. So basically what it is you have a flat skill or magic number.
Right.
And then as you buy these specializations, if you were doing something that
relates to
them, you would get your skill plus that effectively as a bonus. So you can do anything or try to do anything
like we did in the
base
first
skill
episode,
level.
yeah.
Exactly. But if you spend points on being better at something, so like if you want to be better at fighting with a sword, you put points into sword.
Yeah, and my model has a sword, so obviously I'm going to buy sword as one of my enhancements.
Or you could be better at other things.
Like cartography.
Like cartography.
Give me some cartography. So let's go with combat first. I'm carrying a sword, so I'm going to take a point of sword at least. And how many points do I have to spend?
Yeah, fair question.
I think it's 5 to start, but I read this the other night and remember the core stuff better than anything else.
There's 5 areas. A human hero receives 1 point in the following special skills for free.
Okay.
So you get a point in world lore, city lore. This can be replaced with forest lore, desert lore, etc. for rural heroes.
I'm going to go with world lore.
You also get religion lore.
Okay.
And one other movement or stealth special skill.
Okay. I get to pick that one.
Yeah. So
I'm going to pick sneaking.
Okay. So take sneaking as that. And then you also gain the following language special skill, common speech.
Common speech. So speech, and then it's common. I just realized I didn't grab my eraser. I think it's up there next to your character. Right, oh, you have one? Oh, that's right. I forgot. You have your GM's. Perfect.
My little box that goes to the cottage with me so I can play fighting fantasy novels.
That's right. All right. So I got 1 point each of those. So then what is my selection that I get to take?
Yeah, bear with me because I let the book close.
Whoopsie.
Foolish. Somehow my notebook has a ribbon, but my actual book does not.
It's because it's a high quality Michael's notebook.
There you go. All new heroes also assign 2 points to each of 3 different special skills.
Those are my ones I've basically really trained in.
And 1 point to 6 or more special skills. No individual special skill may be chosen twice, although racial special skills listed above may be further improved, so an elf hero may start with 3 points of minor.
So I could add 1 to each to make the ones into
so
2s.
2 to 3 different and 1 to 6.
Well, I'm gonna take sword as a 2.
Yeah. Do you want to see the list of
Yeah, I will.
a massive list.
So because it's 6 that I can add 1 to, I'm gonna make all of my racial ones into 2s as well, because it just feels like I'm gonna lean into that stuff. So that's 4 of my 6 already. So I'm gonna have 2 points in world lore, 2 points in religious lore, 2 points in sneak, and 2 points in common. And then I'm gonna take a combat skill with my sword. I think I just pick a weapon, don't I?
There's groups of weapons.
Oh, there's groups of weapons. That's right. Yeah. So
swords as a group.
Swords will be 1. Okay. So I'm going to take swords for 1 as a 2. Then I'm going to take locks.
Whatever for, Ash.
For 2, because every door is always locked. And I can pick 1 more 2. I'm going to take, I think, healing or maybe fishing. No, crafting. Crafting, because I'm a cartographer for 2. Crafting feels like a good one to have 2 in. And then I get 1 in 2 more. So I'm going to take, let's say, secret signs. Ooh, because I'm a cartographer. I'm going to keep saying cartographer until everyone hates me. And then I get 1 more. I'm going to do, I think, ride. No. Climb. I'm going to take climb for 1 because I got to get around.
I don't know if you'll be using the same character later, but I can guarantee you won't be riding anything at the bottom of the
No, at the bottom. Well, probably not. Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep using this character. I'm good. That's it. I'm done. So I've got basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I've used my like higher level ones to get sword, locks, and crafting. I've boosted world lore, religious lore, sneak, speech to 2, and then I've got secret signs and climb at 1.
Okay. And then talents.
And talents, okay.
Talents are special abilities that mark the hero out as something above normal folk.
Okay.
So maybe you got out of your poor cloth.
My poor cloth.
Yeah,
this is my Nicholas Nickleby moment where I've like lifted myself out of poverty.
Any normal person can learn special skills given enough time and effort, but only those marked out for greatness, be it for good or evil, have talents. Elf and dwarf heroes receive the dark seeing talent for free.
Oh, that makes sense.
Human heroes may not choose this talent.
These are like your built-in, like this is the thing that's like if one's a skill that you can learn, the other ones are like innate kind of
the way
like,
you're born.
Yeah.
So every hero then chooses 1 talent from the following list. A few of these talents have prerequisites the hero must satisfy first.
Okay.
So I don't know how familiar you got with those the other night.
I did get fairly familiar with them, but the things are like you could be ambidextrous, which means you can attack with 2 weapons. You could be friendly with animals. You could be a crack shot with shooting, a fast healer, like you kind of like recover every day a little bit. You can be fast. You can be able to focus, have like training with armor, be friends with or be a natural mage, which is an interesting one. Natural physician, you're just good at like healing yourself up. You can be physically empowered. You can use your stamina as magic points and stuff like that. Or just have a silver tongue. I am Gonna be silver tongued.
There you go.
I think I'm gonna be a fast talking, wisecracking, Deadpool style comedian.
I do like the stamina as magic points because it makes it feel more like Dungeon Crawl Classics to me, where you can like do spell burn and things like that.
So I'll be +3 to, I think it's con, bargain, and what's the other one? Persuade?
Silver tongued, con, bargain, etiquette.
Etiquette. Anything else?
Or leadership. And it's +3.
I'm a fast talking, wisecracking man.
And now we get to it.
Okay.
To complete the process, a few more steps must be completed to really bring the hero to life. The social standing of the hero needs to be determined. How the hero is seen by normal society. Most heroes would be fairly normal people in their own society unless the hero's social class has already been determined. The player and the director between them must determine the hero's social class based on their concept within the 0 to 6 range. So let's have a look. Beggar, mercenary, or criminal? Yeah, no.
Not quite. No, I feel like I'd be working for Ebenezer Scrooge. That's where I'm at.
So social scale 3 is craftsman or sergeant. So level 4 is clerk. So I would think 3 or 4.
3 or 4, yeah. I feel like I'm a little more downtrodden because I've been sent out on like I feel like the 4 guy sent the 3 guy to go make some maps.
I would give you a 4, except given the size of his hat, I don't think he's quite there yet.
Fair enough. That's right.
His hat's not insignificant.
That's right.
But
I haven't had it up enough.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that has to go broker the land deal for Dracula. I'm the guy who has to go. I got real Renfield energy.
What I picture your social standing as Keanu Reeves faking a British accent.
Yeah,
Social
with the worst mutton chops ever.
Lemmy would like to talk to you.
That's
please.
right. Yeah, but what is it as bad as Carrie Elway facing a Texas accent? Because that's the other half of that, where Carrie Elway has to get his Bowie knife out.
I'm gonna say the one that trumps them all is, we're going to go back to the greatest movie of all times, which is A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Oh, that's true.
And Liam Neeson
as
a cowboy in the West.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. If you haven't seen A Million Ways to Die in the West, we're writing the miniature game.
And for the record, that him playing that character is a throwback to a one-line joke from Family Guy.
It is. And also possibly my favorite Old West movie for like the last 5 years. All right. So my social standing is Poor of Cloth, level 3. Anything else I need to know about my equipment or my gear?
So...
Oh, that's the thing we didn't mention is the way that weapons work in this. It's not just do 2 points of damage.
Correct.
There's a little more granularity to that.
Yeah, every weapon you may roll a d6 for your damage, and there's a range. When you look at the range in the book is actually 1 to 7.
Okay.
So the reason for that is like in the original Fighting Fantasy, where you can test your luck, and if you succeed, you max the damage out, and if you fail, it becomes halved.
Right.
So in Advanced Fighting Fantasy, you have 2 options. You can test your luck when you hit somebody.
Yep.
And if you succeed, you make your damage roll a 7.
Okay.
So you go to the end of the chart.
Yeah, go to the end of the chart.
The other option is you can test your luck when someone has attacked you, and if you succeed, you make their damage a 1.
Oh, cool. So there's a spectrum of damage as opposed to just having flat 2
yes.
or double to 4.
So a sword, because you have a sword.
Oh, you have an S word, yep.
A sword is, so we'll just go left to right, so 1 to 7 across the boxes.
Yep.
2,
2,
3,
3,
3,
3,
3,
3,
3,
3,
4,
4,
5.
Wow, that's a lot of damage.
That's
a lot more damage than you would do base. Like I was surprised I didn't do 1 at base.
So the other thing you'll find is a big difference is when you're fighting mooks, it's not such a big deal because the mooks are scaled.
Yeah.
But because your skill, especially as a starting adventurer, is so much lower than it traditionally is going to be in a fighting fantasy book, when you get to whatever the boss monster is, it's probably going to hit you a lot more than you're going to hit it as a starting adventurer.
Right. Got it.
All right, and then for starting equipment, for starters, you get 2d6 gold pieces in cash.
Get to roll dice now in cash. I got 7 big old gold pieces. And you can get silver in this one as well. So I got 7 gold.
1 weapon that you have a special skill in.
Sword.
Okay. A leather cuirass. I always say that wrong.
Cuirass?
Cuirass.
Yeah.
If the hero has the armor special skill.
I do not.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know I needed to take that. Okay, cool.
Do you want to change any?
No, I'm not wearing one. I'm physically not carrying one.
Okay.
So armor also has an effect in this.
So armor
where it reduces your damage.
It's the exact opposite of how weapons work. So one of the suggestions that the game actually makes is, even though all your rolls in combat are 2d6, it suggests rolling 3 dice, one die being a different color, because if you're the attacker and you win, that turns into your damage dice. And if you're the defender and you win, or if you lose, that becomes your armor roll.
Got it.
So your armor is also on a scale of 1 to 6.
Got it. Got it.
So a lantern and a flask of oil.
A lantern?
Yep.
And you can have 10.
You can have 10 item slots, yeah.
Yeah.
A backpack to store your equipment in, which I've always interpreted as not actually occupying an item slot.
That's fair, because otherwise it would just be, you'd have 9.
Super backwards.
Yeah.
Provisions amounting to 2 meals.
Now, what are my provisions going to take the form of? I feel as a streetwise cartographer, I don't the bacon and or chip buddy would maybe not be what I'd be eating. I don't know. I maybe just have like a piece of like very, very, very old salted fish
wrapped in a poorly written map.
That's right.
The map that didn't make the final cut.
That's right. Yeah. That's more my jam, I think. From Salmonus.
Then a magical potion of stamina, magic, or luck.
Always luck. I don't know if you've played a lot of Fighting Fantasy novels, Jay, but the Potion of Luck is the only potion you need.
Well, in the Fighting Fantasy novels, it's even better because I think it increases your.
It does by one. Yeah, you drink it, you chug it down and get +1 luck. It's always the one I would take.
And if you were a magically inclined character, you get an additional piece of magical equipment, but you're not.
I'm not. Nope. So I lose out on having the armor, which means that I am going to be going in this with no damage reduction, but that's okay. My streetwise sweet silver tongue will get me out of all the trouble I'm going to get into.
Make friends, not enemies.
That's it. Sorry. And there's actually a provisions slot on here.
Yeah, it does not take up an equipment slot.
Because they don't take up equipment slots. That's right.
Your provisions and your money and your treasure that has a cash value as opposed to a magic item doesn't take slots.
So luck potion. So basically the 2 slots I have filled right now are lantern with oil and my luck potion. All right. So that looks like my character is created. I don't have any spells. I don't have any notes. And I do have my miniature ready to rock and roll. So what's the mission we're playing? What is in this Fighting Fantasy Dungeoneer, the Tower of the Sorcerer is the first adventure. But we're playing 2nd edition. So what is the name of the adventure that I'm going on?
So I love this because if anybody is familiar with other role-playing games of the era, so Dungeons and Dragons, 90-something% of players' first adventures was the Keep on the Borderlands.
Yep.
If you've played Call of Cthulhu, all 7 editions of Call of Cthulhu have included The Haunting as one of the adventures in the starting book.
Yeah.
So the Advanced Fighting Fantasy 2nd edition book has basically the scenario from the original Fighting Fantasy book. So it's called The Well this time.
Okay.
It uses the same map.
Ish.
Was I supposed to say spoiler alert?
That's okay. My cartography's so excellent. I'll have found an old map.
But the contents of the map and where, like, the boss encounter is not going to be in the same place.
Got it.
And the contents of the room is completely different. Thematically, it's not even. There is no Spider King.
Oh no, not the Spider King!
No Spider King.
Well, you did light his whole room on fire, so maybe the Spider King, and you also killed the dusty old bastard, the mummy.
There is no mummy.
Yeah, and I don't know if the stuff room has been changed around.
The stuff room may have been changed.
It's okay.
There may be shocking differences.
There's no more special friend stuff in there. So this is a whole new adventure. The Well this time. It no longer grants wishes.
Yeah, don't even bother wishing.
Don't even bother trying to wish in there. So we're going to do that as a separate video, and you'll be able to see that next week. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little retrospective on Advanced Fighting Fantasy, the 1st and 2nd editions. And you can come back to watch our next adventure coming up on next Thursday. So thanks for watching.
We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody. Hey folks, I hope you enjoyed that video, and thank you for watching. If you want to find out more about me and see what I'm up to, you can check me out on Facebook at facebook.com/outofthebasement-into-the-streets or Instagram at Guerrilla Miniature Games. You can also find me on Patreon at patreon.com/Guerrilla Miniature Games, and of course, you can now follow on Patreon if you don't want to back and see what's new. Thanks for watching.